The Australian budget tractor market is dominated by two assumptions that independent ownership data consistently fails to support. The first is that a low entry price means a low-quality machine. The second is that any Chinese manufactured tractor sold in Australia represents a parts and service liability waiting to happen. Independent workshop data and documented owner feedback from product review. I'll tell a different story, one in which several budget brands have accumulated satisfaction records among real Australian owners that their pricing and their lack of dealer forecourt prominence do not reflect. 6 of those brands are examined here, starting with the one that most consistently surprises buyers who expected to be disappointed. In 6th place, Dongfeng and YTO occupy a position in the Australian budget tractor discussion that requires careful framing before anything else is said. Dongfeng and YTO do not have the same market share as the big names, but among the owners who have reported their experience on farm tender and local forums, the feedback has been surprisingly positive. This is not a categorical assessment of quality or a claim that the two brands have achieved the kind of documented reliability record that the established names in this series have accumulated over decades of Australian service. It is an accurate description of the reported experience from a small but consistent sample of Australian operators who have used these machines in real property applications and chosen to document that experience publicly. Dongfeng Agricultural Machinery Group is a state-owned Chinese manufacturer with a production history in agricultural equipment extending back to the 1960s. YTO Group Corporation, similarly state-owned, is one of China's largest tractor manufacturers by volume and produces machines that are sold under various brand names in international markets. In the Australian context, both brands appear through independent import channels and small-volume regional distributors rather than through the kind of national dealer network that characterizes the established names in this market. The practical consequence of that distribution model is the same for both brands. Parts availability is variable by region, and sourcing is not always straightforward, which is a legitimate constraint that any buyer considering these machines should assess against the dealer access and parts logistics reality of their specific location. For a buyer in a regional center with established supplier contacts and the mechanical competence to source components through import channels when required, the documented owner feedback suggests that Dongfeng and YTO, compact and utility machines in the 40 to 70 horsepower range, represent a functional and economical option for light to moderate property work. For a buyer without those resources in a remote location, the variable distribution model represents a real risk that the entry price does not offset. In 5th place, YTO's position is noted separately here because the brand appears with sufficient independence in Australian forum discussions to warrant its own assessment rather than permanent conflation with Dongfeng. YTO machines in the 50 to 80 horsepower utility bracket have been reported in farm tender community discussions as delivering adequate performance for mixed property use, cultivation, slashing, loader work, at price points that are typically 20 to 30% below equivalent specification machines from the established Asian manufactured budget brands. The caveat remains the same. Distribution depth and parts sourcing are the variables that determine whether the entry price saving holds across the ownership period. In 4th place, TYM, the Korean tractor manufacturer established in 1951 and distributed in Australia through Inlon PT Lol, occupies a genuinely different category from the Chinese manufactured machines in this countdown, and its position in 4th place reflects a satisfaction record on product review. AU, that is among the strongest of any budget brand in the Australian market. TYM machines in the 40 to 100 horsepower bracket draw specific and consistent praise from Australian owners for build quality relative to price, with multiple product review. AU assessments describing the structural finish, cab quality, and hydraulic performance of TYM utility tractors as matching or exceeding machines from established brands in the same price range. TYM's engineering heritage in the Australian context is reinforced by its production relationship with the broader global compact and utility tractor market. TYM has produced machines under contract for other brands and carries the engineering discipline that contract manufacturing demands. Inlon Pti Ltd maintains distribution and part support for the TYM range in Australia, which provides a structured parts pathway that the lower-ranked brands in this list cannot consistently offer. Warranty terms for TYM in Australia should be confirmed directly with Inlon Pti Ltd, as the Australian market terms are specific to this distribution arrangement and should not be assumed from any other regional offering. Known weak points that Australian TYM owners document on product review. Commodore include the front axle seal on four-wheel drive configurations, which can develop minor weeping at around 2,000 hours in heavy cultivation use, with a reseal costing approximately 180 to 220 Australian dollars through an Inlon accredited workshop, and the cab pressurization seal on higher specification models, which benefits from inspection in dusty Australian paddock conditions at around 1,500 hours, with replacement costing approximately 190 to 250 Australian dollars. Fuel consumption on the TYM T55 in the 55 horsepower bracket runs at approximately 4.2 to 5 liters per hour under moderate load. 3-point linkage lift capacity on the T55 sits at approximately 2,200 kilograms. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 140 to 160 Australian dollars through an independent workshop. For an Australian buyer who wants Korean-built engineering quality at a price point that consistently undercuts the Japanese manufactured competition by 15 to 25%. TYM's product review. Commerce au record suggests the brand delivers what the specification sheet promises in real property operation. In third place, Solus, distributed in Australia through PFG Australia, alongside the Coyote brand, enters this countdown as the brand whose Australian market growth over the past 3 to 4 years has most surprised observers who expected the budget, Indian manufactured segment to remain marginal. Solus tractors are manufactured by International Tractors Limited in India, a manufacturer with a production history in agricultural equipment for the Indian domestic market and for export, and distributed in Australia through PFG Australia's established network, which also carries Coyote and provides a structured service and parts supply chain for both brands. The specific characteristic that Solus draws consistent praise for in Australian owner discussions is the powertrain specification relative to price. Solus utility machines in the 50 to 90 horsepower range carry a powertrain specification, engine displacement, transmission options, and hydraulic flow rates that Australian owners consistently assess as above average for the price bracket. Product review, COM. All assessments for Solus machines in Australia include multiple references to the transmission shift quality and hydraulic response as meeting expectations more associated with machines at a higher price point. Warranty terms for Solus in Australia should be confirmed directly with PFG Australia at the time of purchase, as the Australian market terms are specific to PFG Australia's distribution arrangement. Known weak points documented in Australian operator discussions include the fuel filter housing seal, which can develop minor weeping at around 1,500 hours, a repair costing approximately 90 to 120 Australian dollars through an independent workshop, and the front wheel bearing set on four-wheel drive models, which benefits from inspection at around 2,000 hours on properties with significant cultivation or loader work, with replacement costing approximately 170 to 210 Australian dollars. Fuel consumption on the Solus S90 in the 90 horsepower bracket runs at approximately 6.5 to 7.5 liters per hour under moderate broadacre load. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 140 to 160 Australian dollars through a PFG Australia dealer or independent workshop. For an Australian buyer in a region with PFG Australia dealer coverage, Solus delivers a parts and service pathway through an established national network at a price point that the brand's modest profile in mainstream rural media does not suggest is possible. In second place, Branson, a Korean tractor brand that was produced by Branson Industries and has been part of the TYM Group structure since 2023, occupies a specific position in the Australian compact and utility discussion because its satisfaction record predates its corporate reorganization and reflects a consistent owner experience across the pre-reorganization and post-reorganization periods in the Australian market. Branson machines distributed in Australia through established dealer networks in the 40 to 100 horsepower range draw consistently positive product review. Commerce AU assessments for build quality, cab finish, and powertrain smoothness that place the brand above its price point in owner assessments. The corporate context matters for a buyer who is concerned about the long-term parts supply implication of Branson's integration into the TYM structure. TYM's established Australian distribution through Weichai-Lovol provides a parts supply pathway for the broader Korean manufactured compact and utility machine range that offers more long-term confidence than the distribution situation for some competing budget brands. Known weak points in Australian operator discussions include the hydraulic remote coupling seal, which can develop minor weeping at around 2,000 hours. Reseal cost approximately 140 to 180 Australian dollars. And the front axle oscillation pin, which benefits from greasing at every service interval and replacement at around 2,500 hours at a cost of approximately 220 Australian dollars. Fuel consumption on the Branson 6515 in the 65 horsepower bracket runs at approximately 5 to 5.8 liters per hour under moderate load. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 140 to 160 Australian dollars through an accredited dealer. And finally, in first place, the post-2018 Weichai-Lovol lineup is a completely different story from the old EuroLeopard days. Now backed by official Australian dealer networks with real factory warranties, and representing the most significant repositioning of a Chinese agricultural equipment brand in the Australian market in the past decade. The distinction between the pre-2018 grey market Foton EuroLeopard, examined in detail in the brand caution context earlier in this series, and the current official Weichai-Lovol offering in Australia is not a marketing claim by the distributor. It is a structural reality documented in the change from informal import channels to an established distribution arrangement through independent authorized dealers in Australia, backed by the engineering resources of the Weichai Group, one of China's largest and most internationally capable engine and powertrain manufacturers. The Weichai Group's acquisition of and investment in the Lovol agricultural equipment line brought engineering standards and quality control processes that are directly reflected in the documented reliability of post-2018 Lovol machines in Australian operation. Authorized Lovol dealers maintain genuine parts inventory in Australia for the current Lovol range, provide warranty administration through the Australian distribution structure, and offer a service network that addresses the most fundamental limitation of the grey market import model that preceded this arrangement. Warranty terms for the post-2018 Weichai-Lovol range in Australia should be confirmed with an authorized Lovol dealer at the time of purchase, as the terms are specific to the current Australian distribution arrangement and should not be assumed from any other period or market. Weichai-Lovol utility machines in the 50 to 100 horsepower bracket are documented in Australian owner discussions as delivering powertrain performance and build quality that reflects the Weichai Group's engineering investment. Known weak points in early Australian operator reports include the cab door seal on higher specification models, which can allow minor dust ingress in heavy paddock conditions at around 1,500 hours. Replacement seal cost, approximately 80 to 110 Australian dollars. And the hydraulic filter service interval, which in Australian dusty conditions benefits from inspection at 150 hours rather than the standard 250-hour interval, adding one filter change per season at approximately 60 to 80 Australian dollars. Fuel consumption on the Lovol M95 in the 95 horsepower bracket runs at approximately 7 to 8 liters per hour under moderate broadacre load. 3-point linkage lift capacity is approximately 3,500 kilograms. Routine service every 250 hours costs approximately 130 to 150 Australian dollars through an accredited Lovol dealer. The post-2018 Weichai-Lovol earns first place in this countdown, not because it is a perfect machine or because its brand history in Australia is uncomplicated. The grey market EuroLeopard period created a reputational liability that the current product has had to overcome. It earns first place because it represents the most complete transformation of a budget brand's value proposition in the Australian market, and because the structural elements that determine whether a budget tractor purchase is a sound decision, official distribution, genuine parts inventory, factory warranty administration, and an established service network, are now in place in a form that is verifiable and enforceable under Australian consumer law. Across all 6 brands examined in this countdown, one truth stands out. The difference between a budget tractor purchase that delivers value and one that becomes a liability is not the badge on the bonnet. It is the distribution and support structure behind the badge. Sometimes the smartest purchase on the farm is the name nobody at the produce store has heard of, provided that name comes with a dealer you can call, a parts catalog you can order from, and a warranty that holds up when you need it to. If this breakdown changed the way you think about what a budget brand needs to have behind it before it is worth the risk,